Now, in continuation with our discussion on IGST, let us first try to understand some basic important definitions. The first one is under Section 2.5 Export of Goods. Under Section 2.6 Export of Services. Import of Goods. And Import of Services. So first let us try to understand what is export or import of goods. And then we will discuss about services. Under Section 2.5. Export of goods, with its grammatical variations and cognate expressions means taking goods out of India to a place outside India. So our definition is very simple. It is simply taking the goods out of India. And what is the meaning of import of goods under Section 2.10? Import of goods, with its grammatical variations and cognate expressions means bringing goods into India from a place outside India. So bringing goods to Mumbai port from Australia is import of goods. So this definition is not talking anything about whether you are selling. That is why you are taking out the goods. Or whether you are purchasing, that is why you are bringing in the goods. Or it is only for some kind of a work, job work, modification, or other than sale-purchase transaction. Physical movement of goods within India is covered under the definition of exports and import of goods. So the key points should be remembered over here is the movement of goods alone is relevant for the definition of export of goods and import of goods. The nature of currency in which payment is required to be made, or location of exporter important is not relevant. Why we're discussing this is because when we will discuss about export of services and import of services, the definition will be a little bit complicated, wherein the terms like in which currency you're getting the amount and where is the location of importer or exporter is also relevant. But for goods, only movement of goods from or to India is important. The currency in which transaction is realized or paid is not important. The location of export or any importer is also not important. Now let us move to the definitions related to export and import of services. Section 2.6 define export of services means the supply of any services when number 1. Supplier of services is located in India. Recipient of services is located outside India. Obviously, you are supplying services from India. So the person who is providing services is in India. And person who is receiving services is outside India. The place of supply of service is outside India. Now what is this place of supplier service we will discuss very detailed later on. Place of supply of service is outside India. The payment for which services have been received by the supplier of service in convertible foreign exchange. So, the person is making you the payment in convertible foreign exchange. Then only it is treated as the export of services. That is why in previous discussion for export of goods were specifically discussed. In the definition of exports of goods, it is nowhere mentioned that you must receive the payment in foreign exchange currency for supply of goods. But for supply of services, you must receive the payment in foreign exchange currency. The supply of services and the recipient of services are not merely establishment of a distinct person in accordance with explanation went to Section 8. Now what is the meaning of establishment of a distinct person? It is nothing but a branch officers of the same company. Same person. So it is not just a transaction between the related parties or the branches. Like the branch office in US and branch office in India. And they are supplying services to each other. So it will not be treated as export of services. So this clause was also not applicable for export of goods. Taking goods out of India. But for export of services, 5 clauses are to be satisfied. Supplier is in India. The receiver is in outside India. Place services outside India. Payment is received in convertible foreign exchange. And there is no nearly establishment of distinct person. Like branch of transactions. Now, the definition for input of service should also be a mirror image of this probably. But see whether it is so. Import of services means supply of any service. Where the supplier of service is located outside India. The recipient of the service is located in India. Now see, it is just opposite of the definition of export of service. Supplier is in US. And the receiver is in India. That is why we're treating it as import of service. So these two are quite logical. The place of supply of services is in India. Third clause is also similar to that of exports. When in a case of exports the place of service was outside India. So, in case of imports the place of service must be within India. But the last two clauses is. That is clause number 4 and 5. As it was there in export of services. This is missing in import of service. These two clauses are not there in the definition of import of service. So, if you are importing service, and for that you are making the payment in convertible foreign exchange, or Indian rupees, or whatever, it's nothing to worry. It will be always a point of service. And if you are importing service from your branch office, then also it will be treated as import of service. So, the important point is only for export of services. Let us take an example. Service exported to Nepal. And payment received in Indian rupees. Can be treated as export of services. Logically, practically, yes, it is export, but as per the definition clause number 4. Payment must be receiving convertible foreign exchange. So, no, it will not be treated as export of service for the purpose of IGST. Similarly, service exported to the branch office of US. And payment received in USD. Now as per clause number 5. It cannot be merely a branch office. So if you're exporting services to the branch office and even if the payment is issued in USD, then also, it will not be treated as export of services. So just to recap once again. In export of services there are 5 clauses. In import of services there are only 3 clauses. The 3 common clauses are regarding place of supplier, place of recipient, and place of supply. And 2 clauses, which are only exclusively applicable for export or service, are convertible foreign exchange and branch transactions. So to sum up, we can say that in case of exports, supplier located is India, whereas recipient and place of supply is outside India. You are a supplier of service, you are sitting in India, and your customer is outside India. Place of supply is also outside India. Now this workplace of supply don't get very right now. We'll discuss in detail what it means place of supply. And in case of imports, it is exactly the mirror effect of this. In India who will be sitting? You're importing. So the recipient must be sitting in India. And place of supply must be in India. Whereas the supplier is outside India. So all these terminologies also we have to understand. What is a place of supplier? What is a place of recipient? And what is a place of supply? Then only we can work out whether that particular transaction is export or import within the meaning of IGST. Try understand now one by one. What is the meaning of location of recipient? What is the meaning of location of supplier? What is a place of supply? Within under this Act. Section 2(14). Location of recipient of service. Now there are 4 different cases under which it will be categorized. Services received at registered place of business. Then location of recipient of service will be such place of business. If services are received at other than the registered place of business, then such place of business. Between services are received at your accounting backup, which is just a supporting office, not a registered office, then that will be such an establishment. If services are received in more than one establishment, whether they are registered or not registered is not important. then the establishment, which is most directly concerned with the receipt of supply. So we'll be discussed with one example so it will be more clear to you. And if the services you cannot classify under about 3, then residual case, usual place of residence of the recipient. If none of above, then usual place of residence of the recipient will be treated as location of the recipient of service. Let us try to understand with an example. With this chart, services received act and location of recipient. Like a limited is having its office at Mumbai, which is a resisted place of business, and one accounting back office at Delhi, which is not resisted, because it is not providing any services to outsider. It's only accounting work that has been carried out at Delhi office. So it is not registered. It is a fixed establishment. Now, let us try to understand one by one. What will be the location of recipient in these cases? First one is security services received in Mumbai. So in Mumbai office, you're receiving the services. The first case, services received at register place of business. If services are received at register place of business, it is quite logical. It must be registered place of business that is Mumbai. So location of recipient of service will be Mumbai in first case. Similarly, second, housekeeping services received at Delhi. Delhi office for cleaning purposes. There is some housekeeping services were hired. So, what in that case? Other than the registered place of business services are received then. Such place of business, such fixed establishment. So such fixed service mesh like Delhi. Delhi office will be treated as location of recipient of service. Now statutory audit of a limited mostly at Delhi. Now a limited undergoing the statutory audit. These services are reserved, obviously at Delhi, because Delhi is accounting office. Mumbai is just a front end, or front office we can say. So who is directly receiving the services? Or who is most directly concerned with the receipt of supply? See the clause. More than one establishment whether registered or other. If receiving services then, the establishment most directly concerned with receipt of supply. So who is most directly concerned with receipt of supplies is Delhi. So Delhi will be the location of recipient, which is actually getting maximum services out of the statutory audit. Last one. Legal consultancy services for overall company. Like there might be some legal opinion or legal consultancy services have been hired for the entire company. So this legal valuation, we can say of the company is to be carried out. So it is not specific to one branch Mumbai or Delhi. It is for overall company. So this is not falling in any of the first 3 clauses of this. Either at register place, or other than register place, or more than one establishment. But one of the establishment is directly concerned. None of this it is falling in. It is usual place of residence of the recipient. As per the definition, usual place of residence of recipient means if it is an individual, where he is normally residing, and if it is non-individual, then it is the place where it has incorporated. So, the registered office incorporated office of that company is in Mumbai. That is why it will be treated as a place of residence. And that will become location of recipient of services. Then the definition is of location of supplier of services. So, it is a mirror image of earlier definition. Exactly 4 parts. Supply of services are made from registered place of business. Then such place of business. Other than registered place of business. Then such fixed establishment. More than one establishment. The establishment most directly concerned with the provision of supply. And none of above. Usual place of residence of supplier. So you can see all the 4 clauses are exactly similar with location receiver of services. Let us take one example. Mr. A is providing consultancy services. from his register place of business, which is in Mumbai. So this is falling in the first category. If services are supplied from register place of business, such place of business will be location of supplier of service. So Mumbai is location of that supplier. The location of A will be Mumbai. Very simple, quite logical.